everyone, this is Miss Heather from Daycare. I hope you're all doing well. I'm really proud of all the work you guys have been doing to keep up with your schoolwork and following all the new rules and stuff going on. I see a lot of the pictures that you guys sent in to the Valencia Instagram page. It's always nice to see your faces. We also have the Star Reading Challenge going on right now. And as you guys know, reading is my favorite thing. And so I thought it would be fun to read to you guys one of the books that I like. This is Fortunately the Milk by Neil Gaiman, illustrated by Chris Riddle. I really enjoy this book. Part of why I enjoy it is because it's a story within a story. I think it'll be a lot of fun, and I hope you guys enjoy this book. Fortunately, the Milk. There was only orange juice in the fridge. Nothing else that you could put on cereal unless you think that ketchup or mayonnaise or pickle juice would be nice on your Tostios, which I do not, and neither does my little sister, although she has eaten some pretty weird things in her day, like mushrooms on chocolate. She did not actually like eating them, and I had not actually told her that there were mushrooms inside the chocolate. It was an experiment. "No milk," said my sister. "Nope," I said, looking behind the jam in the fridge just in case. "None at all." Our mom had gone off to a conference. She was presenting a paper on lizards. Before she went, she reminded us of the important things that had to happen while she was away. My dad was reading the paper. I do not think he pays a lot of attention to the world while he is reading the paper. "Did you hear me?" asked my mom, who is suspicious. "What did I say?" "Do not forget to take the kids to orchestra practice tomorrow. It's violin on Wednesday night. You've frozen a dinner for each night you're away and labeled them." "The spare house key is with the Nicholsons. The plumber will be here on Monday morning, and do not use or flush the upstairs toilet until he's been. Feed the goldfish. You love us and you'll be back on Thursday," said my father. I think my mom was surprised. "Yes, that's right," she said. She kissed us all. Then she said, "Oh, and we're almost out of milk. You'll need to pick some up." After she went away, my dad had a cup of tea. There was still some milk left. We defrosted meal number 1, but we made a bit of a mess of things, so we went to the Indian restaurant. Before we went to sleep, Dad made us mugs of hot chocolate to make up for the whole missing of Mom. That was last night. Now Dad came into the kitchen. "Eat your cereal," he said. "Remember, it's orchestra practice this afternoon." "We can't eat our cereal," said my sister sadly. "I don't see why not," said my father. "We've got plenty of cereal. There's Tostios and there's muesli. We have bowls, we have spoons. Spoons are excellent, sort of like forks, only not as stabby." "No milk," I said. "No milk," said my sister. I watched my dad think about this. He looked like he was going to suggest that we have something for breakfast you do not need milk for, like sausages. But then he looked like he remembered that, without milk, he couldn't have his tea. He had his no-tea face on. "You poor children," he said. "I will walk down to the shop on the corner. I will get milk." "Thank you," said my sister. "Not skimmed," I told him. "That stuff tastes like water." "Right," said my dad. "Not skimmed." He went out. I poured some Tostios into a bowl. I stared at them. I waited. Lots of pictures on this page. "How long has he been?" asked my sister. "Ages," I said. "I thought so," said my little sister. We drank orange juice. My sister practiced her violin. I suggested that she stop playing her violin, and she did. My sister made faces at me. "How long has it been now?" she asked. "Ages and ages," I told her. "What happens if he never comes back?" she asked. "I suppose we eat the pickles," I said. "You can't eat pickles for breakfast," said my sister, "and I don't like pickles at any time. What if something awful has happened to him? Mom would blame us." "I expect he just ran into one of his friends at the corner shop," I said, "and they got talking and he lost track of time." I ate a dry Toastio as an experiment. It was sort of okay, but not as good as in milk. There was a thump and a bang at the front door, and my father came in. "Where have you been all this time?" asked my sister. "Ah," said my father, yes, well, funny you should ask me that." "You ran into someone you knew," I said, "and you lost track of time." "I bought the milk," said my father, "and I did indeed say a brief hello to Mr. Ronson from over the road who was buying a paper. I walked out of the corner shop and heard something odd that seemed to be coming from above me. There was a noise like this. Thum, thum. I looked up and saw a huge silver disc hovering in the air above Marshall Road. "Hello," I said to myself. "That's not something you see every day." And then something odd happened. "That wasn't odd?" I asked. "Well, something odder," said my dad. The odd thing was the beam of light that came out of the disc, a glittery, shimmery beam of light that was visible even in the daylight. And the next thing I knew, I was being sucked up into the disc. Fortunately, I had put the milk in my coat pocket. The deck of the disc was metal. It was as big as a playing field, or bigger. "We have come from your planet from a world very far away," said the people in the disc. I call them people, but they were a bit green and rather blobby, and they looked very grumpy indeed. "Now, as a representative of your species, we demand that you give us ownership of the whole planet. We are going to remodel it." "I jolly well won't," I said. Then one of them said, "We will bring all your enemies here and get them to make you miserable until you agree to sign the planet over to us." I was going to point out to them that I didn't have any enemies when I noticed a large metal door with "Emergency Exit. Do not open for any reason. This means you" on it. I opened the door. "Don't do that," said a green globby person. "You'll let the space-time continuum in." But it was too late. I had already pushed open the door. I jumped. I was falling. Fortunately, I had kept a tight hold of the milk, so when I splashed into the sea, I didn't lose it. "What was that?" said a woman's voice. "A big fish? A mermaid? Or was it a spy?" I wanted to say that I wasn't any of those things, but my mouth was full of seawater. I felt myself being hauled up onto the deck of a little ship. There were a number of men and women, and a woman on the desk, and they all looked very cross. "Who be ye, landlubber?" asked the woman, who had a big hat on her head and a parrot on her shoulder. "He's a spy, a walrus in a coat, a new kind of mermaid with legs," said the men. "What are you doing here?" asked the woman. "Well," I said, "I'd just been to the corner shop for some milk for my children's breakfast and for my tea, and the next thing I knew—" "He's lying, Your Majesty." She pulled out her cutlass. "You dare lie to the Queen of the Pirates?" Fortunately, I had kept a tight hold of the milk and now pointed to it. "If If I did not go to the corner shop to fetch the milk, I asked them, then where did this milk come from? At this, the pirates were completely speechless. Now, I said, if you could let me off somewhere near my destination, I would be much obliged to you. And where would that happen to be? Said the Queen of the Pirates. At the corner of Marshall Road and Fletcher Lane, I said. My children are waiting there for their breakfast. You are on a pirate ship now, my fine bucko, said the Pirate Queen, and you don't get dropped off anywhere. There are only two choices. You can join my pirate crew, or refuse to join, and we will slit your cowardly throat, and you will go to the bottom of the sea, where you will feed the fishes. What about walking the plank? I asked. Never heard of it, said the pirates. Walking the plank, I said. It's what proper pirates do. Look, I'll show you. Do you have a plank anywhere? It took some looking, but we found a plank, and I showed the pirates where to put it. We discussed nailing it down, but the Pirate Queen decided it was safer just to get two of the fattest pirates to sit on the end of it. Why exactly do you walk the plank? Asked the Pirate Queen. I edged out onto the plank. The blue Caribbean water splashed gently beneath me. Well, I said, I've seen lots of stories with pirates in them, and it seems to me that if I'm going to be rescued... At this, the pirates started to laugh so hard their stomachs wobbled, and the parrot took off into the air. Rescue, they said. There's no rescue out here. We're in the middle of the sea. Nevertheless, I told them, if you are going to be rescued, it will always be while walking the plank. Which we don't do, said the Pirate Queen. Here, have a Spanish doubloon and come join us in our piratical adventures. It's the 18th century, she added. There's always room for a bright, enthusiastic pirate. I caught the doubloon. I almost wish that I could, I told her, but I have children, and they need their breakfast. Then you must die. Walk the plank. I edged out to the end of the plank. Sharks were circling. So were piranhas. And this is where I interrupted my dad for the first time. Hang on, I said. Piranhas are freshwater fish. What were they doing in the sea? You're right, said my father. The piranhas were later. Right. So, I was out at the end of the plank, facing certain death, when a rope ladder hit my shoulder. And a deep, booming voice shouted, "Quickly, climb up the rope ladder." I needed no more encouragement than this, and I grabbed the rope ladder with both hands. Fortunately, the milk was pushed deep into the pocket of my coat. The pirates hurled insults at me, and even discharged pistols, but neither insults nor pistol shots found their target, and I soon made it to the top of the rope ladder. I'd never been in the basket of a hot air balloon before. It was very peaceful up there. The person in the balloon basket said, "I hope you don't mind me helping, but it looks like you were having problems down there." I said, "You're a stegosaurus." "I am an inventor," he said. "I have invented the thing we are traveling in, which I call Professor Steg's floaty ball person carrier." "I call it a balloon," I said. Professor Steg's floaty ball person carrier is the original name, he said. And right now, we are 150 million years in the future. Actually, I said, we're about 300 years in the past. Do you like hard, hairy, wet, white crunchers? He asked. Coconuts, I guessed. I named them first, said Professor Steg. He picked up a coconut from the basket and ate it, shell and all, just as you or I might crunch toast. He showed me his time machine. He was very proud of it. It was a large cardboard box with several pebbles on it, and stones stuck to the side. There was also a large red button. I looked at the stones. Hang on, I said. Those are diamonds and sapphires and rubies. Actually, he said, I call them special shiny clear stones, special shiny bluey stones, and, special shiny red stones, I suggested. Indeed, he said. I called them that when I was inventing my really good moves around in time machine 150 million years ago. Well, I told him, it was very lucky for me that you turned up when you did and rescued me. I am slightly lost in space and time right now, and I need to go home in order to make sure my children have milk for their breakfast. I showed it to him. This is the milk, although I expect that 150 million years ago, you called it wet white drinky stuff. Dinosaurs are reptiles, sir, said Professor Stagg. We do not go in for milk. Do you go in for breakfast cereal? I asked. Of course, he said. Dinosaurs love breakfast cereal, especially the kind with nuts in it. What do you have on your cereal? I asked. Orange juice mostly, or we just eat it dry, but I shall put this in my book. In the distant future, small mammals put milk on their breakfast cereal. I shall write a wonderful book when I return to the present. Actually, I said, I think this is definitely in the past. It has pirates in it. It's the future, he said, and the dinosaurs have gone off into the stars, leaving the world to mammals. I wondered where you all went, I said. The stars, he told me. That is where we will have gone. So, I said, can you take me home? Well, he said, yes and no. What does that mean? Yes, I would love to take you home. Nothing would make me happier. No, I cannot take you home. In all honesty, I don't believe I can take me home. My time machine is being temperamental. I need a special shiny greeny stone. I have pressed that button many times, but nothing happens. Button? Don't you mean big, red, flat, pressy thing? I asked. I most certainly do not. It is a button. I named it after my Aunt Button. Can I press it? If you wish. I pressed the button. The sun shot around the sky, and the stars started to flicker in nights and in days, and the balloon began to rock and lurch and zoom around like an angry fly. I held onto the ropes as hard as I could. Fortunately, I was still keeping tight hold of the milk in my right hand. When we stopped being blown across the sky, it was night, and according to Professor Stagg, we had only gone back about 1,000 years. The moon was nearly full. I am even further from my children and our breakfast, I said. You have your milk, he said. Where there is milk, there is hope. Ah, over there. That looks like the perfect landing platform for time-traveling scientists and a floaty ball person carriers. We landed on the platform and got out. The platform stuck up out of the jungle and had flaming torches on each side. There were people standing on it with very black hair and sharp stone knives. Is this a balloon landing platform? I asked the people. It is not, said a fat man. It is our temple. We had a very bad harvest last year, and we had just asked the gods to send us a sacrifice to make sure that this year's harvest was better when you floated down in that thing with your monster. Thank you, by the way, said a little thin man. I was going to be the sacrifice if no one else turned up. Much obliged. So now we will sacrifice you and your monster. But my children are waiting for their breakfast, I said. Look. I held up the milk. Why did they all just fall to their knees? Asked Professor Steg. Is this usual hairless mammal behavior? Perhaps I should hold up some hard, hairy, wet, white crunchers and see what happens. Coconuts, I told him. They are called coconuts. What is that you're holding? The fat man asked. Milk, I said. Milk, they exclaimed, and they prostrated themselves on the ground. We have a prophecy, said the fat man, that when a man and a spiny black monster descend from the skies on a round floaty thing— Floaty ball person carrier, said the thin little man. Yes, one of those. We were told that when that happened, if the man held up milk, then we were not to sacrifice them, but we were meant to take them to the volcano and give them, as a present, the green jewel that is the Eye of Splod. Splod? He is the god of people with short, funny names. It is, I said, a remarkably specific sort of prophecy. When did you receive it? Last Wednesday, said the fat man proudly. The priest of Splod was woken in the night by a voice whispering from the heavens, and when he went to look and see who it was, nobody was there. Also, he was sleeping on top of the temple, and nobody else could have been up there with him, so it must have been either Splod himself talking or one of his angelic messengers. We walked together down a jungle path. Professor Steg held the rope in his mouth that led up to the balloon, and he dragged the balloon along. After half an hour, we reached the volcano. It was not a very big volcano. There were wisps of smoke coming from the top of it. On the side of the volcano, there was a carving of a big, scary face with one eye in the middle of its forehead. The eye was the biggest emerald I had ever seen. A special shiny greeny stone, said Professor Steg with his mouth full of rope. The fat man clambered up on the side of the volcano. It is a good thing that Splod himself told us to give you the Eye of Splod, said the little thin man, who had narrowly avoided being sacrificed. Because there is another prophecy that says if the Eye of Splod is ever removed, Great Splod will awaken and spread burning destruction across the land. Here you go, said the fat man. He handed us the emerald. Professor Steg nipped up the rope ladder into the balloon's basket and began to install the emerald on the time machine. Hang on, he was a stegosaurus? Yes. Then how could he just nip up the rope ladder? He was, said my father, a large stegosaurus, but very light on his feet. There are fat people who are excellent dancers. Are there any ponies in this? Asked my sister. I thought there would be ponies by now. I was standing on the ground, holding on to the rope ladder, when the ground shook and the very small volcano began to belch smoke and lava. Splod is angry, shouted the little thin man. He wants his eye back. There was a rushing sound, and the balloon jerked me up into the air, high above the splurting lava. Unfortunately, I had dropped the milk. I wasn't holding on to it tightly enough. It landed on the top of Splod's head. Professor Steg hauled up the rope ladder with his tail. I've lost the milk, I told him. That's not good, he admitted. But I know where it is. It's on top of Splod's head, on the side of the volcano. Professor Steg said, Good Splod, what on earth is that? Before our eyes, another balloon, just like ours, appeared over the volcano. A man hurried down the rope ladder. He placed a large emerald in Splod's eye, picked up the milk from Splod's head, ran up the ladder, and the balloon vanished. The very small volcano stopped erupting as suddenly as if it had been turned off. "That was a bit peculiar, wasn't it?" said the professor. "It was," I agreed, gloom and despair and despondency overcoming me. "That man in the balloon stole my milk. We are lost in the past, with the jungles and pirates and volcanoes. Now I will never get home. My children will never have breakfast. We are doomed to float forever through the dusty air of the past in a hot air balloon." "It is not a balloon," said Professor Stagg. "It is a floaty ball person carrier. What nonsense you do talk. Now, I think that should do the trick." He finished attaching the emerald to the box, using string mostly, and also sticky tape, and he pushed the red button. "Where are we going?" I asked. It seemed like the sun was zooming across the sky, and if nights were following days in a flickering strobe. "The far, far future," said Professor Stagg. The machine stopped. We were hanging in the air above a grassy plain, with a very small gray mountain beneath us. "There," said Professor Stagg. "Now it is an extinct volcano. But look!" On the side of the extinct volcano was carved the face of Splod, still recognizable, even though it was much eroded by time and weather, and in a single eye was huge green emerald, a perfect twin to the one that we had attached to the time machine. "Right," said Professor Stagg. "Grab me that special shiny greeny stone." I went over the side of the basket and down the rope ladder. I pulled the emerald out of the eye socket. Below me, on the plain, a number of brightly colored ponies were gathered, and when I picked up the emerald, one of them shouted up at me, "You must be the man without the milk. We have heard about you in our tales." "Why are you a pink pony with a pale blue star on the side?" I asked. "I know," said the pony with a sigh. "It's what everybody's wearing these days. Pale blue stars are so last year." Professor Stagg leaned up over the side of the balloon's basket. "Hurry up," he called. "If the volcano is going to go off, it could do it at any moment." The volcano made a noise like a huge burp, and the middle of it collapsed into itself. "We thought it would do that," said a green pony with a sparkly mane. "There was a prophecy, I suppose," I said. "No, we are just very clever." All the ponies nodded. They were very clever ponies. "I'm so glad there were ponies," said my sister. I got back into the balloon basket. Professor Stagg unhooked the first emerald from his time machine and replaced it with the one that I had just taken from the weathered face of Splod in the future. "Do not, whatever else you might do," said the professor, "touch these two stones together." "Why not?" "Because, according to my calculations, if the same object from two different times touches itself, one of two things will happen. Either the universe will cease to exist, or 3 remarkable dwarves will dance through the streets with flower pots on their heads." "That sounds astonishingly specific," I said. "I know, but it's science. And this is much more probable, and it is much more probable that the universe will end." "I thought it would be," I said. "You look so sad," said Professor Stagg. "I am. It's the milk. My children are breakfastless." "The milk," said Professor Stagg. "Of course." And with that, Professor Stagg pressed the red button with his heavily armored tail. There was a zoom and a thwop and a fang, and we were hurtling through the cosmic void. And then it was dark. Very dark. Oops, said Professor Stagg. And I think that's where we're going to stop for today. I hope that we will be able to keep reading tomorrow. I hope you are all having fun doing the Star 30-Day Reading Challenge. Let me know what books you're reading and if you have any suggestions for books that we want to read together. It is fun to read on your own, but sometimes it's just fun to have someone read to you. So I hope you guys are having a good day. I hope you're enjoying the book so far. I miss you and I can't wait to see you soon. Bye!